Let me just start with this concept, because it could certainly be in the middle, but which of these two extremes do you think is more likely? That they turn the page on a lot of successful Phillies who are going to get big contracts from someone and are aging, that they turn the page and go younger and not bring all those guys back, or they bring all those guys back? Which extreme is more likely?
The latter, that they bring guys back. And I don't think they're going to bring them all back. Obviously, you got 4 prominent free agents. 2 of them they really, really want to bring back. That's Schwarber and Real Muto. Ranger, probably going to be a budget cut. And, Bader, they're going to, stay on his market and see what it takes. There's definite interest. But, I don't know which way that's going to go. I think they'd be happy to have him back, but they're also going to monitor where his market goes. I think they have a –
Sure.
I don't think they want to go overboard on that. But
so Jim,
the big priorities are Real Muto and Schwarber.
To what extent, and this goes specifically for Middleton as the owner, and he used to be not the principal guy out front, and he's become the principal guy out front, of course, since the passing of David Montgomery. To what extent does the ghost of the 2012 through like the 2017 Phillies, when they aged and stunk, to what extent does the carcass of those 5 or 6 years play a part, in your opinion, in Middleton's mind of whether he'll be willing to give JT a 3rd or 4th year, whether he'll be willing to give Schwarber a 5th or 6th year? How do you size that up?
We all remember those those dark years after the great run when they got old and they started breaking down and they started losing, and it was a wasteland, baseball wasteland around here. And I think that's in the back of their mind, but I don't think it's going to stop them in being aggressive on those 2 guys, because I think they know how important they are to this team and to this team in relation to where it is on its winning curve. There's still some tread on this core's tire, and they're committed to it. What are you supposed to do? Turn around now? You got Harper for six more years. You got Turner for 7 more years, whatever it is. They're both $300 million players. You got Wheeler at $42 million a year. You got a good pitching staff, and you got a team that won 96 games. And I can almost guarantee you that they're going to play in October next year. Yeah. You got to take your shot. You got to keep taking your shot. You just can't let the core die on the vine and not support it with such integral players. Kyle Schwarber and the power he brings and the impact he has from the batter's box to the clubhouse. JT Realmuto from the impact he has behind the plate right through the clubhouse. So I really, really believe in my heart that both guys are going to return. I think they both like it here. And I think the Phillies are going to do what it takes. And it's probably going to be an extra year in both cases. Ideally, JT is probably a 2-year deal at this stage of his career, like 2 times 15. They got to go 3 to get him off the market, keep him away from Buster Posey. I think John Middleton does it.
Wow.
And I think if ideally Schwarber's like a 4-year deal, 30-ish, 31, 32, who knows where this market's going to go. If it takes 5 to get him right back here, I think they'll do it. And if you get 2 good ones out of JT and 4 good ones out of Schwarber, that's kind of the way the game works. Everybody gets that extra year, and you take what you can get, and they're going to take a shot at winning this thing in the next few years. But I feel pretty confident that they're going to get something done with both guys because both of them like it here. And don't underestimate the return of Kevin Long, the hitting coach, as it pertains to Kyle Schwarber's desire to stay. And his desire to stay is strong to begin with, but that's his guy. That's the guy who helped turn around his career.
Okay.
And I think Kevin Long recently, just recently got like a 3-year contract extension. To me, that's all part of the calculus in retaining Kyle Schwarber.
Interesting. And how real is the possibility of Don Mattingly as bench coach?
Real. In that it's been seriously discussed by the organization. There might be a complication. His son is the GM, as we all know, but maybe that's not a complication. But they are on record as saying they want to have a bench coach with major league managerial experience. He's managed 2 teams. He's got a history with Rob Thompson dating back to their time as staffers on the Yankees. He's got a history with Kevin Long. Obviously, his son's there. And he's a good baseball man. On that coaching staff, there's a real dearth of major league experience on the playing side, and he would really bring some of that. So he might bring some different kind of voice in that clubhouse and a different level of respect. So they have talked about it. Dave Dombrowski wants it, from what I've heard. That's his kind of guy, and we'll see where it goes. Obviously, Don Mattingly has left the door open to stay in baseball. He would like to manage, but I don't think any of the managerial openings that are still around intrigue him. But coming here and trying to get a ring here with his son, I think would be a hell of a story. And I don't think it's like one of these, throw him a bone things. This guy would be a major contributor.
So if you're Topper, that would not be a situation where you'd feel threatened by Don Mattingly because of the shared history with the Yankees together?
It's a great question. It's a natural question. I just think Rob Thompson's too secure in his own skin to be threatened by anybody. It's the guy almost retired a couple of years ago. I think he's looking at this as gravy. He wants a World Series championship in the worst way, and I think he's open to anything that would help.
Sure.
I also think if they hired Don Mattingly, it wouldn't be the worst thing if Don stood up at the press conference and said, I have no desire to ever manage this team. I'm here to help. I'm here to help this team get where it wants to go and see what happens. I'm here to help loved ones and friends and see what happens. And if they ever made a change, maybe they'd go a different route. So I don't think he would be hired, if he's hired, to be the next manager. You never know. I think they would have other ways they could go there. But at this point, you can't worry about any of that stuff. 4 years in the playoffs, coming up short, and three really painful exits the last 3 years. I don't care how you get it done. You just got to get it done. It doesn't matter who's doing what. So
who's the real Harrison Bader? Is it the guy that we saw for the portion of last season, changed the fate of this Phillies team to some degree, or is it the less exciting version that we saw everywhere else in his career?
That's the big question about why I think they're pondering what they want to commit to him. I think they'd love to have what we saw the first 6-8 weeks that he was here. Then he kind of faded off. Then he got hurt. They love the energy. They obviously need a right-handed bat in the worst way. But he does have a track record. He's been released once. He's bounced around. He's kind of got a journeyman's profile. And is he a journeyman, or is he the guy that had 6 or 8 weeks? That's why they get paid the big bucks to make that that appraisal. I personally think he's probably closer to the journeyman type player. That said, I think he can contribute if he ends up back here. But I would have my eye on bigger fish in the right-handed bat category.
Well, Jim, let's talk about some of them, Jim. So and again, Jim Salisbury with us here right now. Jim, of the external free agents, the big ones, and there's 4 or 5 big names, which do you think would be the best fit for the Phillies? Which do you think is the most likely to join the Phillies?
It all depends on what happens with Schwarber and Real Muto, especially Schwarber, because that's going to be your big ticket, your biggest ticket. I mean, if he leaves, you're going to have extra budget, and you're going to have a need for a DH. Maybe it's Pete Alonso. He would really intrigue me.
Yeah.
If both of those guys come back, Real Muto and Schwarber, your payroll is going to be pinched, but I don't think it's going to be exhausted. And I, as a guy who has kind of watched John Middleton over the years, sometimes when the right opportunity is there, he tweaks things. He pushes the payroll a little bit. So if you could move, say, a Bohm and clear his $10 million, or a Stott and clear his, I think it's going to be $6 or $7 million, and maybe with clearing that money, he tweaks it a little bit, and you're in the Bo Bichette sweepstakes. I think that would be such a wonderful fit. Right-handed bat who can hit at the top or in the middle, who's contact, who can drive the ball. You could play him at second, depending on what happens. With Stott, you could play him at third, depending on what happens with Bohm. I think
it sounds like
Bregman-
you don't think Bohm is part of the plan, Jim.
I'm not saying he's not part of the plan. I just think it's an inflexible roster, and he's one of the pieces that there is a path to move on from him, a path to include him in a trade. He's got some value. He's last year before free agency. There are teams out there looking for third baseman, not wanting to spend the money on Bregman. So, you might be able to trade him. You might be able to trade a Stott. Other than that, I don't see, Marsh. You might be able to trade a Marsh. I don't know how much value he has, but it's an inflexible roster with the no trade clauses and high salaries. Yeah. It's tough to move guys. I mean, I do expect to see, the big, you're going to see a change in the starting lineup because Castellanos is going to move on. Another right-handed bat I might keep an eye on is Byron Buxton. He's a guy who's had a long history of injuries, soft tissue injuries, but he did stay pretty healthy last year, and he had a monster year. When he is healthy, he is a dynamic defensive and offensive player. Right-handed bat, hits for power, plays center field. But he has been adamant that he's not waiving his no-trade clause. Would he reconsider this winter now that Minnesota is really scaling back? I mean, they moved 12 players last year at the deadline. Maybe. I certainly would make that call. I think he's probably going to continue to want to stay in Minnesota, but I would make that call. So those are all right-handed bats that I would be taking a peek at, and depending on the opportunity, even if Schwarber and Realmuto return, I've seen John, push the payroll when the opportunity presents itself. We saw it way back when with Jim Thome. We saw it more recently with Castellanos. Spring training had started. Castellanos was still there. Dave Dombrowski said need $20 million. John said let's do it. So you just never know how this offseason is going to evolve. I mean, I think back to last year. Luzardo was a great trade. That wasn't on anybody's radar at this time of year.
Yep.
So things do evolve in the course of an off season. They need some fresh blood. They need a right-handed bat to augment the core that they do have. I don't expect a ton of change, but I think there'll be enough change that you'll look at it and say, okay, go get them with what you got.
How much of an upgrade would Alex Bregman be over Alec Bohm? Is it negligible offensively, but Bregman gives you, a little more consistency emotionally, and that's the focus on what you're looking for there?
Yeah, that's a good question because, Bregman has had some decline recently. I think he might be a little overpriced at this point. He walked away from $80 million in Boston. But he is a winning player. He brings you contact. He can hit for power. He can do some of the things in terms of driving the ball that we thought Bohm would do more of, and we didn't see enough of this year. So, Bregman's an interesting guy, but over 30, and this team is old already and getting old. I would, if you're going to go and get another piece beyond Schwarber and Realmuto. And I still think there's a chance they could do something like that. Bo Bichette is a guy that would really, like I said, really, really intrigue me. Because, we got Bellinger and you got Tucker out.
Yeah, it's great.
Bellinger and Tucker are out there. I've seen people throw those names around. They're left-handed bats. This team needs a right-handed bat to put behind.
And he's got the attitude like, I guess.
Well, yeah, Jim, I would put it this way. To me, they haven't had a right-handed hitting four-hole hitter since Rhys Hoskins in 2022. They just haven't.
Yeah, they thought they were getting one in Castellanos. They thought they were getting one in Castellanos. They thought Bohm would blossom into that. It hasn't happened. No. You got to make it happen. You got to get somebody to protect the mothership and Bryce Harper, get him some more pitches, and he's also he puts a ton of pressure on himself. He's got to, stop trying to carry all the load and just let it happen because he's a guy who cares a lot, cares about his numbers, cares about being great. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. The whole team needs to stop putting tons of pressure on yourself. That's been an enemy of theirs the last few Octobers, in my opinion.
Sure.
The pressure they put on themselves.
Jim Salisbury here. Jim, a couple really key things to get through in this segment, and we appreciate the extended time here. So, do you have any inkling? We haven't heard John Middleton speak publicly since they lost. Do you have any inkling what he's thinking and how he is impacting others around him in that organization? I'm curious if you think Dombrowski's comments about Bryce, if that in any way comes from the mindset of Middleton? What do you know or not know about what Middleton's been doing behind the scenes?
I just know it's kind of business as usual. He wants to win a World Series. And, there was heartbreak, disappointment that, they didn't go further this year. It didn't happen. He wants it desperately. I think Dave's comments, I think they were from the heart. I kind of think there's a difference between a subtle difference between the word criticize and the word critique. I think it was more of an honest critique. And I also think it's probably been talked about upstairs, that very topic.
Well, and Jim, it should be, but it was public this time. I mean, I'm telling you, I don't remember since Bobby Clark challenged Lindros in the late 90s, I don't remember a superstar in Philly sports. I agree with you it was a critique. I agree with you it was accurate. Mm-hmm. I agree with you it's been privately discussed.
And Jim, you just
but
said
this
that
was publicly discussed.
That he puts a lot of pressure on himself. I can't imagine that this lessens the pressure on him.
I mean, this tells me something's more on a personal level. I just got to believe something's more personal.
I just think that, organization-wide, or at least upstairs front office-wide, they thought there was more there. I thought, Dave neglected to point out that the guy played hurt for a good bit. And that, if he didn't miss a month, his numbers are probably better. But I think Bryce was frustrated in his season. I think the team expected more out of him. And I think Dave kind of spoke from the heart in that. I don't know if you can anticipate that question. And he just, gave an honest answer. I hear all these conspiracies that it has something to do with the contract. There's more to it. They want to trade him. They're trying to, trying to antagonize him so they can trade him. So he waives his no trade clause. I don't think that's remotely true. I hear stuff about the extension. I don't think that's remotely true because I don't think Dave handles that extension. I think it's above him. I think it's at the ownership level between Scott Boras and John Middleton. I just think they thought there was more there, and Dave answered the question from the heart, and it kind of blew up on him. And I was there when I heard it. My ears perked right up. I'm like, wow, this sounds like a challenge. But I don't know that it was premeditated because I don't know that you can anticipate that question. But like I said, I'm sure it's something that's been rattling around in a bunch of people's heads upstairs, probably including John Middleton. But, that said, I know Bryce Harper, and he's a guy who, he's a proud man, and we'll see. Remember when the Braves shortstop made that comment about him, and he went out the next night and hit 2 home runs and looked him down? I think if Bryce channels this right, it could be a hell of a motivator for him to come back and have a big season because God knows they need him.
Yeah, well, that's another theory, that it was just a challenge to irk him. I mean, Bill Parcells used to do that, and, maybe it was just that type of motivation.
I don't think it was. I don't think he set out to publicly irk him. I just think he offered an honest critique that we've all seen. It was a really good year. Yeah. It wasn't an elite year, and I didn't think it was particularly harsh. And but it was interpreted that way in some quarters.
Sure.
And one of them being Bryce. So
yeah.
I do think
that was kind of the big one who interpreted it poorly.
Well, everybody's got to move by it. He's not going anywhere. John wants him to go to the Hall of Fame with a Phillies hat on, and I think he will. And I just don't see a big conspiracy behind this. I just think it was I think it was one guy offered his opinion, and it kind of blew up. And now Harper can go and have his say, starting, March 28th.
Sure, Jim, couple final things. Should they bring Kerkering back? And this is a double-edged question. Hallett ended literally at the end, but also a couple years in a row now where he hasn't felt trustworthy in the postseason, and you're going to be back in the postseason, and you want guys you can trust. Should they bring Kerkering back?
If there's an opportunity to trade him or move him in a package that ultimately helps you get better, he wouldn't hold up a deal for me. But I think we're going to get whether he can survive that, we're not going to know until April, May, June, July, if he's back till the games and the intensity ramps up and how he deals with it. He's going to get a huge ovation on opening day if he's here, and then it's up to him to kind of, he's got talent. It's up to him to build on it.
Yeah.
But it starts with being able to locate his fastball, because that's where his problem is. But should they just trade him because of this? I wouldn't just trade him because of this. I would only trade him if I thought, I could get better.
I'll just say from my standpoint, Jim, I view his playoff issues over 3 seasons as much more important to consider trading him than how
one
it
moment.
ended.
Yeah.
Like Mitch after 93, I think everyone's like, all right, it's got to, cannot do it. Cannot bring him back 94. I don't view it like that. I just view it like, do I want Kerkering in the 7th inning of a playoff game in 2026?
It's a valid question, valid observation. Him and Mitch are at different stages of their career. This is still a young player. But maybe they've seen enough that, we're going to move on for him. But I tell you what, I would not give him away. I would just not give him away.
I agree with that.
Because he had a bad day. I would give it some time to see how much that bad day shapes him going forward, and then I would make that decision. But I would be open to trading a lot of players if it provided me with an eventual upgrade. And he'd be one of those guys, young enough, cheap enough, somebody might have some interest.